Today is a sunny day. You see the light from that side? Mm, Yesterday we read a paragraph really touched me. This is this paragraph. If nature had made you for a giver, your hands are born open, and so is your heart. And though there may be times when your hands are empty, your heart is always full, and you can give things out of that warm things, out of that warm things, kind things, sweet things, help and comfort and laughter. And sometimes gay, canned laughter is the best help of all. I really like this paragraph. It's so beautiful, and we can all be like that. Then today, let's go on. We already finished. We already finished chapter 6. Now chapter 7. The diamond mine again. The diamond mine again. When Sarah entered the Holly Hong schoolroom in the afternoon, she did so as the head of a sort of procession. Miss Minchin, in her grandest silk dress, led her by the hand, and the manservant followed, carrying the box containing the last doll. A, a housemaid carried a second box, and rear, brought up the rear, carrying a third, brought up the rear, carrying a third, and wearing a clean apron and a new cap. Sarah would have much preferred to enter in the usual way, but Miss Minchin had sent for her, and after an interview in her private sitting room, had expressed her wishes. Brought up the rear. Had expressed her wishes. This is not an ordinary occasion, she said. I do not desire that it should be treated as one. So Sarah was led grandly in and felt shy when on her entry the big girls stared at her and touched each other's elbow, and the little ones began to squirm jealously in their seats. Squeal, squirm, should be school. School. It's so slow.
Squirm.
We have
Squirm.
porridge. Francis, we have porridge.
Squirm. Squirm.
Oh.
Squirm.
Squirm. Began to squirm, 蠕动，局促不安的。Squirm, jealous. FFC. FC. Why? That's so strange. 局促不安。局促不安的动。局促不安的。 began to squirm jealously in their seat. "Silence, young ladies," said Miss Minchin agitated. James placed the box on the table and removed the lid. "Emma, put yours upon a chair. Becky," suddenly and severely. Becky had quite forgotten herself in her excitement, and was grinning at Lottie, who was wriggling with rapturous expectation. Grinning, was grinning.
grinning,
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 grinning, was grinning. Grinning at Lottie, who was wriggling with
wriggle,
wriggle, who was wriggle. This is a 蠕动，扭动。with rapturous expectation. Rapturous,
rapturous,
rapturous, with rapturous, with rapturous，狂喜的，销魂的，狂喜的，狂喜的，庄严的。With rapturous expectation, she almost dropped her box. The disapproval voice so startled her. And her frightened, bobbing courtesy apology was so funny that Lavinia and Jessie tittered, startled her, and her frightened, bobbing courtesy. Bob 上下来回间断 bobbing bob 请屈膝礼 bobbing courtesy 请屈膝礼请屈膝 courtesy, no, is it courtesy? Courtesy. 屈膝礼 yeah, courtesy. Courtesy. bobbing courtesy of apology was so funny that Lavinia and Jessie tittered. Titter.
titter,
Titter.
titter,
Tittered. It is not your place to look at the young ladies, said. It is not your place to look at the young ladies, said Miss Minchin. You forgot yourself. Put your box down. Oh, it's not your place to it's not your place to look at the young ladies. It's not your place to look at the young ladies, said Miss Minchin. You forgot yourself. Put your box down. Becky obeyed. Becky obeyed with alarmed, hasty, and hastily backed towards the door. Haste,
haste, haste,
haste. With alarmed, obeyed with alarmed, hasty. With alarmed, hasty, and hastily backed towards the door. You may leave us, Miss Minchin announced to the servants. Becky stepped aside respectfully to allow the superior servant to. She could not help casting a long glance at the box on the table. Something made of blue satin was peeping from between the fold of tissue paper. Of something made of blue satin. Blue satin.
satin,
Satin. Blue satin. 段子 Blue satin was peeping from between the fold of tissue paper. If you please, Miss Minchin, said Sarah suddenly. Mayn't Becky stay? It was a bold thing to do. Miss Minchin was betrayed into something like a slight jump. Then she and gazed at her show pupil disturbedly. Disturbedly. Becky, she exclaimed, my dearest Sarah. Sarah advanced a step toward her. I want her because I know she will like to see the presents, she explained. She is a little girl too, you know. Miss Minchin was scandalized. Scandalized. 震惊。Scandalize.
scandalize,
Scandal. 受到耻辱，是震惊。Was scandalized. She glanced from one figure to the other. My dear Sarah, she said, Becky is the scullery maid. Scullery maid. Are not little girls. It really had not occurred to her to think of them in that light. Scullery maids were machines who carried coal scuttles and made fare. It really had not occurred to oh my God. It really had not occurred to me in that slide. Scarlet maids were machines who carried coal scuttles and made fares. But Becky is, said Sarah, and I know she would enjoy herself. Please let her stay, because it is my birthday. Miss Minchin replied with much dignity. As you ask, it is a birthday fever. She may stay. Rebecca thanked Miss Sarah for her great kindness. Becky had been backing into the corner, twisting the hem of her apron. Hem. 周边
hem,
周边衣服的周边 hem
hem,
hem hem of her apron in delighted suspense. Suspense.
Suspense. Suspense.
Suspense.
Suspense.
Suspense. 悬而未决。
Suspense.
Delighted. 悬而未决。悬而未决。In delighted suspense. 含糊不定。含糊不定。In delighted suspense, she came forward, bobbing courtesies. But between Sarah's eyes and her own, there passed a gleam of friendly understanding, while her words tumbled over each other. Tumbled over each other. Tumbled each other. 翻来覆去。
Tumble. Tumble.
Tumbled over each other. So her words tumbled over each other. So funny. Her words tumbled over each other. Oh, if you please, much grateful, miss. I did want to see the door, miss. That, thank you, ma'am. Turning and making an alarmed bob to Miss Minchin for letting me take the liberty. Take the liberty. Take the liberty. For letting me take the liberty. Miss Minchin waved waved. It was in the direction of the corner near the door. Go and stand there, she commanded, not too near the young ladies. Becky went to her place, grinning. She did not care where she was sent, so that she might have the luck of being inside the room instead of being downstairs in the scullery. While these delights went on, she did not even mind when Miss Minchin cleared her throat omi, ominously and spoke again. Oh, ominous, 不祥的 yes, ominously.
ominously,
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 ominously, ominously. Ominously, and spoke. Oh, no. Ominously. Don't. Ominously, and spoke again. Young ladies, I have a few words to say to you, she announced. She's going to make a speech, whispered one of the girls. I wish it was over. Sarah felt rather uncomfortable. As this was her party, it was proper that the speech was about her. It is not agreeable to stand in the schoolroom and have a speech made about you. You are aware, young lady, the speech began, for it was a speech. That dear Sarah is 11 years old today. Dear Sarah, murmured Lavinia. Several of you here have also been 11 years old, but Sarah's birthday are rather different from other little. When she is older, she will be the heiress, 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 here, not here.
heiress,
Huh?
heiress, heiress, heiress,
Heiress, heiress,
heiress,
heiress,
heiress, heiress,
heiress,
heiress, heiress, heiress. Okay. She will be the heiress to a heiress to a large fortune, which it will be her duty to spend in a meritorious manner. Meritorious manner. Oh, okay.
meritorious, meritorious,
Meritorious manner. Which it will be her duty to spend in a meritorious manner. The Diamond Mine, Jess. The Diamond Mines, giggled Jess in a whisper. Sarah did not hear her, but as she stood with her green eyes fixed steadily on Miss Minchin, she felt herself growing rather hot. She felt herself growing rather hot. When Miss Minchin talked about money, she felt somehow that she always hated her. Hated. She felt somehow that she always hated her. It was disrespectful to hate grown-up people. When when her dear papa, Captain Crewe, brought her from India and gave her into my care, the speech proceeded. She said to me in a jesting way. Jesting, I think is happy. Jesting. Oh, no. Jesting.
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 开玩笑的。In a jesting way. In a jesting way, I'm afraid she will be very rich, Miss Minchin. My reply was, her education at my seminary, Captain Crewe, shall be such as will adorn the largest fortune. Adorn. As adorn.
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 Will adorn. Okay. 装饰。Will adorn. 装饰。Will adorn the largest fortune. Sarah had become my most accomplished pupil. Her French and her dancing are a credit to the seminary. Her manners, which have caused you to call her Princess Sarah, are perfect. Her amiability she exhibits by giving you this afternoon's party. I hope you appreciate her generosity. I wish you to express your appreciation of it by saying aloud altogether, "Thank you, Sarah." The entire schoolroom rose to its feet, as it had done the morning Sarah remembered so well. Thank you, and it must be when the populace applauds her. Lavinia, sketchingly. The sound you just made was extremely like a snort.
Scathe. Scathe.
Scathingly. Scathe, 伤害。Scathe. Scathingly. The sound you just made was extremely like a snort. If you are jealous of your fellow pupil, I beg you will express your feelings in some more ladylike manner. I beg you will express your feeling in some more ladylike manner. Now I will leave you to enjoy yourselves. The instant she had swept out of the room, the spell her presence always had upon them was broken. The spell she presence, her presence always had upon them was broken. The door had scarcely closed. Scarcely. The door had scarcely closed before every seat was empty. The door had scarcely closed before every seat was empty. The little girl stamped and tumbled out of theirs. The older ones wasted no time in deserting themselves. There was a rush toward the boxes. Sarah had bent over one of them with a delighted face. "These are books, I know," she said. The little children broke into a rueful murmur. Rueful. Rueful. Rueful.
rueful,
Rueful.
rueful,
悲伤的可怜 broke into rueful. The little children broke into a rueful murmur, and Ermengarde looked aghast.
aghast,
Aghast.
aghast,
Aghast. And Ermengarde looked aghast. 惊吓的，被惊吓的。Looked aghast. "Does your papa send you books for a birthday present?" she exclaimed. "Why, she's as bad as mine." "Don't open them, Sarah." "I like them," Sarah laughed, but she turned to the biggest box. When she took out the last doll, it was so magnificent that the children uttered delighted groans of joy, and actually drew back to gaze at it in breathless rapture. Rapture, we just learned 极度欢喜的 rapturous， rapturous, yes， 极度欢喜。Embrace this rapture. Drew back to gaze at it in breathless rapture. "She is almost as big as Lottie. She is almost as big as Lottie," someone gasped. Lottie clapped her hands and danced about, giggling. She's dressed for the theater, said Lavinia. Her cloak is lined with ermine. "Oh," cried Ermengarde, darting forward. She had an opera glass in her hand, and a blue and gold one. Ermengarde, that I think 投掷飞奔 dart forward. Darting forward, cried Ermengarde, darting forward. She had an opera glass in her hand, a blue and a gold one. "Here is her trunk. Here is her trunk," said Sarah. Let's open it and look at her things. She sat down upon the floor and turned the key. String crawled climbing around her. Oh, what? Not glamorous. Glamorous. Clamoring.
clamoring,
Clamoring.
clamoring,
No, clamor. Clamored. Clamor. Clamor. 喧哗。
clamor,
Clamor.
clamor, 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 clamor,
Clamor. Clamoring around her. 喧哗。Crowded clamoring around her as she lifted tree after tree and reviewed their contents. Never had the schoolroom been in such an uproar. There were lace collars and silk stockings and handkerchiefs. There was a jewelry case containing a necklace and a tiara tiara. Is a tiara? 罗马教皇
tiara, tiara, tiara,
tiara，罗马教皇的三重冠，
tiara,
冠状头饰 tiara and a tiara. Oh, no. Tiara, which looked quite as if they were made of real diamonds. There was a long sealskin and muff. Sealskin, oh my God. There was a long sealskin and muff. There were ball dresses and walking dresses and visiting dresses. There were hats and tea gowns and fans. Even Lavinia and Jessie forgot that they were too elderly to care for dolls, and uttered uttered exclamations. Exclamations. Oh my God. Exclamation.
exclamation,
Exclamation. Exclamation. Uttered exclamations of delight and caught up things to look at them. Suppose, Sarah said, at her stude-bed table, putting a large black velvet hat on the impassively smiling owner of all this splendor. Suppose she understands human talk and feels proud of being admired impassively. as she stood by the table,
impassively,
black velvet hat on the impassively smiling owner.
impassively,
Impassively.
impassively,
无动于衷的，无表情，无感情。无感情的，无动于衷。Impassively smiling owner of all this splendor. Suppose she understands human talk and feels proud of being admired. You are always supposing things, said Lavinia, and her air was very superior. I know I am, answered Sarah, and disturbedly. I like it. There's nothing so nice as supposing. It's almost like being a fairy. If you suppose anything hard enough, it seems as if it were real. It's all very well to suppose things if you have everything, said Lavinia. Could you suppose you were a beggar and live in a garret? Live in a garret. Oh, garret.
Garret.
Garret. In a garret, Sarah stopped arranging the last dose ostrich plums. Plume. Ostrich plumes and looked thoughtfully. I believe I could, she said. If one was a beggar, one would have to suppose and pretend all the time, but it may not be easy. If one was a beggar, one would have to suppose and pretend all the time, but it may not be easy. She often thought afterward how strange it was that just as she had finished saying this, just at that very moment, Miss Amelia came into the room. Sarah, she said, your papa's solicitor, Mr. Barrow, has called to see Miss Minchin, and as she must talk to him alone, and the refreshments are laid in her parlor. In her parlor.
parlor,
Parlor. 休息室。In her parlor. 客厅、起居室。parlor. 客厅。You had all better come and have your feast now, so that my sister can have her interview here in the schoolroom. Refreshments were not likely to be destined at any hour. Were not this distinct. Refreshment were not likely to be distinct at any hour, and many pair of eyes gleamed. Miss Amelia arranged the procession into decorum.
Decorum.
Decorum. Decorum. Into decorum, and then, with Sarah at her side hiding it, she led it away, leaving the last doll sitting upon a chair, with the glory of her wardrobe scattered about her. Dresses and coats hung upon chair backs, piles of lace frilled petticoat lying upon their seat. Becky, who was not expected to partake of oh to partake 参与 oh funny partake
Partake.
to partake 吃参与 partake of refreshment. Becky, who was not expected to partake of refreshments, had the indiscretion to linger a moment to look at these beauties. Had the indiscretion, had the indiscretion.
Indiscretion. Indiscretion. Indiscretion.
Had the indiscretion. 不慎重的，不慎重的句子。Indiscretion had the indiscretion to linger a moment. To had the indiscretion to linger a moment. It really was an indiscretion. Go back to your work, Becky, Miss Amelia had said, but she had stopped to pick up reverently. To pick up reverent. 恭敬的检查 reverently, reverent, reverent.
Reverent.
Reverent. 恭敬的 pick up 恭敬的恭敬 reverently first a muff and then a coat, and while she stood looking at this adoringly, she heard Miss Minchin upon the threshold.
threshold,
threshold, and being smitten, and being smitten. Oh,
smitten,
smitten.
smitten,
Oh, that's the side. And being smitten, 中击。中击。Smitten with terror at the thought of being accused of taking liberties, she rashly darted under the table, which hid her by its tablecloth. Miss Minchin came into the room. "Go back to your work, Becky," Miss Amelia had said, but she had stopped to pick up reverently first a muff and then a coat, and while she stood looking at those adoringly, she heard Miss Minchin under the threshold threshold and being smitten with terror at the thought of being accused of taking liberties she darted under the table. She rashly darted under the table, which hid her by its tablecloth. Miss Minchin came into the room, accompanied by a sharp-featured, dry little gentleman. Sharp-featured, dry little gentleman, who looked rather disturbed. Miss Minchin herself also looked rather disturbed, it must be admitted, and she gazed at the dry little gentleman with a puzzled expression. She sat down with stiff dignity, and waved him to a chair. "Pray be seated, Miss Barrow," she said. Miss Barrow did not sit down at once. His attention seemed attracted by the last door and the things which surrounded her. She settled his eyeglasses and looked at them in nervous disapproval. The last doll herself did not seem to mind this in the least. She merely sat upright and returned his gaze. Indifferently. "A hundred £100, Miss Barrow remarked uh, succinctly. 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 简洁的，简洁。£100, remarked succinctly. All expensive material and made at the Parisian Madists. He spent money lavishly enough, that young man. lavishly enough. Lavishly. Lavish, not lavish.
lavishly,
Lavishly. He spent money lavishly enough, that young man. All expensive material and made at the Parisian modesty. 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 Modest.
modiste,
Modest. In the Parisian modest. 女时装裁服。时装裁缝。He spent money lavishly enough, that young man. Miss Minchin felt offended. This seemed to be a disparagement of her best patron and was a liberty. Disparagement. Disparagement.
disparagement,
Disparagement. Felt offended.
disparagement,
This seemed to be a disparagement.
disparagement,
轻蔑。轻蔑。Of her best patron.
patron,
Patron. 顾客 patron 赞助顾客 of her best patron 顾客赞助人 of her best patron and was a liberty felt offended. This seemed to be a disparagement of her best patron and was a liberty. Even solicitor had no right to take liberty. 放肆 I think it's 放肆 Take liberty. I beg your pardon, Miss Barrow, she said stiffly. I don't understand. Birthday presents, said Mr. Barrow in the same critical manner, to a child 11 years old, might extravagance, I call it. Extravagance. Extravagance.
extravagance,
Or extravagance. Extravagance.
extravagance, extravagance,
Extravagance.
extravagance,
extravagance. Mad extravagance. Mad extravagance, I call it. Miss Minchin drew herself up still more rigidly. Captain Carew is a man of fortune, she said. The diamond mine alone. Mr. Barrow wheeled round upon her. Diamond mines, he broke out. They are none, never were. Miss Minchin actually got up from her chair. What? She cried. What do you mean? At any rate, answered Miss Barrow quite snappishly. Snappish.
snappish,
Snappish. Quite snappishly. It would have been much better if there never had been any diamond mines. Ejaculate.
ejaculate,
Ejaculate.
ejaculate,
突然说出 any diamond mines. 突然说出 Miss Minchin, catching at the back of a chair and feeling as if a splendid dream was fading away from her. Diamond mines spell ruin oftener than they spell wealth. Spell ruin. Oh. Diamond mines spell ruin oftener than they spell wealth. Diamond mines spell ruin oftener than they spell wealth, said Miss Barrow. When a mine is in the hand of a heavy dear friend and is not a businessman himself, he had better steer clear of the dear friend's diamond mines or gold mines or any kind of mines dear friends want his money to put into. The late Captain Carew. Here Miss Minchin stopped him with a gasp. The late Captain Carew, he cried out. The late! You don't come to tell me that Captain Carew is... He's dead, ma'am, Mr. Barrow answered with jerky. Jerky. 哦，牛肉干也是这个。
jerky,
愚蠢的。With jerky brass queen. Brass queen. What's this? Is a brass woolly brass corners. Oh, my computer is so slow. Brusqueness. brusqueness. No 唐突无力 brusqueness. With jerk brusqueness. With jerk brusqueness. Oh, I have to stop here. Stop here. Oh, which page it is? 131. Okay.